Hello there, and welcome to my Bloons Tower Defense 5 channel. I'm Italian Ninja, and this is where I make attempts at defeating challenges I've set out for myself, make progress, and learn to get better at this game, and subsequently, life. If you enjoy this type of stuff, feel free to subscribe. If you comment, I'll shout you out. And I got a couple shout outs here right off the rip. I want to say, if anybody wants a shout out, like I said in the intro there, you guys, I'm going to be doing the shout outs the next day, so you don't have to friggin' stick around forever. You could just literally make a comment. I'll shout you out the next day, and you never have to watch my stuff again. if you're really interested in just a shout out. Yeah, so make a comment or subscribe and make sure that your subscriptions are public. That way we know, that way I know that you subscribed, and then I can shout you out. Okay? So I just want to give a shout out to the first person here. I got two shout outs. One guy, he's been a regular on the shout outs, and the other one is Nick Van 8385. And I just want to say thank you. You're the type of person that I want watching my content. You these comments, they're really nice to hear, because it seems like a lot of the time I'm just talking to the void. It feels like there's nobody there. So when I do get a comment like that, especially when it's encouraging, like the one that you said, it's really, it really hits me in the feels, so I mean, I'm a big tough guy, but you can be vulnerable, and I'm willing to be vulnerable with you guys and say that, it's really nice to hear these things. So I just want to say thanks, man. Thanks, Nick Van. You're cool as hell. And the other one, I've been going back and forth with him the last little bit here. His name is I'm with Milk. So he wrote me a comment here, and I'm gonna respond to it a little bit, and I also have a hot take. So hopefully this exchange goes well. But I'm with Milk. Basically, he kind of described how he used to be racist, and how I surprisingly, just so everybody knows, he was racist against the English. I don't really know how he got to that, but actually, man, if you want to put some more comments about that, I'm fascinated how you were, unless, well, I guess it's one of two things. Maybe you're African American, or you're Asian, or something like that, native. I'm not sure. So maybe you might hate the British for that reason. I'm not sure. Or you could be like Irish and you just hate the English because they're English, and, or you're Welsh or something, and maybe there was something in your past that really discouraged people from liking the English, which, I mean, there's a lot of people who hate the English, so it's not, you're not completely unique in that. I mean, if you want to say you're racist towards them, that's another thing too. I mean, I don't know. Racism's kind of a weird one, but I have something here for you guys, and this is my hot take. My hot take on racism is that I think it's actually fairly natural to be racist. Being anti-racist and being, say, and this is where I'm going with this. It's a little bit of a tough explanation, because some people are going to tune out right there. They're going to hear hot take, it's natural to be racist, and they're going to tune me out and just go, oh, this guy's so wrong. And that's probably because of their political views. Some of you guys who actually like me, you guys might all of a sudden be like, what is this guy talking? I'm not talking politics. What I'm talking about is just biology. You guys don't understand this if you think of it as a feeling thing. And it's like, regardless of who you are and where you are in the world, you probably might have some friends. And if you don't have some friends, you've probably had a friend in the past. You've probably had a group of friends where you guys hang out and you guys feel like somewhat comfortable together. And if you have never had that, I'm sorry. That's really unfortunate for you. But for the ease of this story, it kind of makes sense that is the case. So I just got to make sure I don't lose here. Okay. And I got to upgrade some shit so I don't continue to lose. Anyway, so the whole point about the hot take about racism here is that I think it's fairly natural for people to be inclined to dislike people they're either unfamiliar with, or they don't look like, or they don't like the smell of, or like they don't like the way their hair looks. Like, if you think about it in terms of a social group, when you and your friends, say you guys were all into, let's just, because it's an easy example, say you guys are all into video games, and somebody comes by and they're like an athlete, there's a natural inclination for you and your friends to scold that person. Like I'm a good example. In my high school, I was fairly athletic. I played football. I didn't really play any other sports. That was the only sport I really played, but that was a big sport to play in my high school. So when I also gamed and played Call of Duty with some of the nerdier kids, they really liked me because they thought, holy crap, this athlete is like playing video games. And like, I never seen it like that, right? I didn't see it as like a division, like you're either an athlete or you're a gamer. And I don't know if they did either. I don't think anybody is actually thinking about these things consciously. But I do think I made an impact with them because it was like I was the only one of the football players to really associate with these guys. So it would have been odd, you know? So where I'm going with this is people, when they notice differences and there's differences, they tend to not like it. Like, it's just like a natural thing to be like, something's different. I'm going to stay away from that. And let's like just consider this. It's actually fairly safe assumption, right? If you consider that, like, if you're walking into an unknown situation and you're a little bit weary, right? You're unsure. It's like in the past, biologically, it might have been a good idea to stay away from those situations because you didn't know how they were going to go, right? That's why it takes courage to do things, right? So, if you're very familiar with, like, say you're going to walk into your own house or something, you're not like nervous to go in there unless, well, I mean, if some kids might be, depending on how abusive their parents are or like how dangerous of an environment it is. If you live in the hood and you're going to be going home to an apartment building, just getting inside might be a nightmare, because it might be, you have to walk through a handful of projects to get to where you have to go, and you don't know what exactly is going to happen on the way. So, like, when I say racism is fairly natural, what I mean by that, and this is the hot take, is that anything that's different usually gets seen as bad. So if we're talking like white people and Asian people, it's like I've experienced this, and I'm sure some of you guys will agree with me that it's like, I've always really enjoyed being around Asian people in particular, because they're very smart and they're quick, not very witty, but the thing is, you find, and vile. So I had this Asian kid I was a roommate with, and this guy, man, I used to tell people that if I ever pissed him off, I knew what he was doing in his head. He was murdering me in his head. So I like Asian people, and I live with an Egyptian and a Turkish guy and another white guy, and anyway. The whole point is about this is like, I'm not racist, or I mean, maybe I am racist. Who fucking knows? But you'd have to point out what the definition of racism is. And I guess this is another hot take. It's like, it depends on what the definition of racism is, because I don't think you should be putting people who maybe say the wrong word in the same category as people who kill people because of the color of their skin. They're not all racists, right? Like, and if they are all racist, it's like, well, can we at least have a different term for the ones who kill people because of their color of their skin? Like, I mean, like, if you consider North Korea, the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, actually, if you can contribute the deaths of the civilians to him, is he racist against Koreans? Because he hates his own people. I mean, or does he hate his own people? I don't know. Maybe he's just a complete lack in disregard for them. Anyway, I actually wasn't planning on going down that line of thinking at all today, boys and girls. I actually wanted to tell you guys some stories about some of the people that I met at my workplace that just so happened to stop by today after work. And like, I just walk outside, and a couple of the guys that I've known for a couple of years, they just happened to be there. They got laid off probably about 2 months ago, So they were there, and I mean, I've talked to them outside, like, I've talked to them on social media, and I have their numbers and stuff. So we've texted and chatted and stuff that way, but hadn't actually seen them. One of them, I hadn't seen one of them. The other one I'd seen maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But anyway, I'm really glad that they stopped by. And what I wanted to tell you guys about today was just some stories about, interesting people. These guys are just, I'm a little bit older. I guess I don't know. I'm 29. I was going to say, I don't know if I really want to tell everybody my age, but I'm not really like concerned about anybody, I don't know, knowing my age, whatever. Who gives a shit, right? But anyway, these guys are younger. They're about 22, 23. And the one in particular really bonded to me because I think he was severely depressed before we got to know each other. And we worked together on a line. So, I mean, like, worked right beside each other for like the better part of 2 or 3 months, and he started out with us just sort of chatting about, well, just everything, and I'm a pretty open and honest person. So like we just started talking about stuff, and he said to me one day, just casually, this is after 2 or 3 days of working with him, he goes, maybe I'm just going to kill myself. And I just looked at him and I go ahead, say that one more time. And he goes, why? And I go, because I'm going to call an ambulance here. I go, how serious are you? I was like, how serious are you? I go, you don't fucking joke around about that shit. I go, because if you're serious, and I go, you keep saying that, I go, I'm going to have an ambulance here and you're going to be going to the hospital and we're going to be putting you on a psych hold because I don't want you to die. I like you, man. And I told him that, I was like, I really don't want you to die. So, that's like a personal thing. That's like, this isn't the first week of meeting this guy, essentially. Like, it's kind of an odd thing for somebody to just come out and say that. But the thing is, I'll be honest, guys, like, I work in an environment where you have no idea some of these people, and some of the worlds that they've come from. And I got to know him over the course of like, well, it's a couple years, and he's a guy, this is what's really interesting about this guy. You'd probably hate him. Most people actually hate him. He's a huge pain in the ass. He's annoying. He gets in people's faces. He's loud. He's obnoxious. Like, there's a lot of things that make it so that people wouldn't like this guy. And you know what? There's definitely been parts of me and his friendship that I don't like him either. And I tell him that, he can tell. There's no, it's very clear, But the thing is, and this is what's really weird, guys, as honest and as open as I've been and just talking about the things that I care about and, listening to people. Cause like, I will say that I'm a really good listener, and I like asking questions and I like getting to know people because they're so fucking fascinating, Like, just to give you an example, I'm with Milk. You're like, your story, I want to give you my email just so that you can keep telling me your story. Cause I'm just fascinated, like, you're telling me about racism and, you were racist and you used to be angrier and, now you're not as angry, which I'm glad, man. Cause, I'm a pretty angry person myself. I mean, I'm luckily I've had a lot of really good outlets to take out my anger in my life. So, I can't say that I've been angry for a very long time. I was angry for a large part of the beginning of my life. And honestly, I don't even really know what I was angry at. I think what I was more so getting at was I'm skeptical, I'm a very skeptical person. And when people start trying to throw crap at me and bullshit in my face, I laugh and I kind of, I tear them down, when somebody, this isn't like, I'm not saying this is the best way to handle things, but if you can tell that somebody's lying to you or is bullshitting you right to your face, call them out, or just challenge what they're saying. Because there's a good chance that maybe nobody's ever challenged them in their life, I say this with all due respect, but you need to be prepared for what's going to happen after that, because sometimes people are not going to react in a very positive way to that, and they might get all aggressive. And I have the advantage of being a larger person, and I'm very intimidating. I'm a very intense person. Like, you guys might be able to tell, it's like a lot of these things that I say, they're not supposed to come across as jokes, but they're probably funny, right? Because they're just so like odd and ridiculous. And like, I've had people, like, I tell people stories all the time in my real life, and it's like they just find the stories so funny. And I'm like, I'm not trying, like, it's not trying to be funny. It's not, that's not the intent. But the thing is they are funny because things are so just like odd, or ridiculous. And this Dalton, that's the one guy's name. I guess I was trying to keep his name out of it, but the chances that he finds this or listens to this is very low. And if he does, I don't think he'll disagree with anything that I said, because I think I give relatively accurate assessments of people, and I tell them for real what I think and what's going on. And you know what? If anything I've noticed, it's that people respect that. Like, I thought people would hate me for doing that. But the real ones, they know. They already know, right? Like, I kind of actually want to tell you guys about another guy that I know. He's an interesting fella. He's an interesting fella because he was in a special ed program. I know a bunch of these guys, by the way. They were basically in special ed programs growing up, and nobody gave them a chance. Nobody gave them a shot at all. This is why I like rough guys, because I'll give them a chance. But nobody ever gave him a chance. They just kind of sloughed him off to the side and assumed that there was no way that he was ever going to go on to do anything. And this is the type of guy that when he was, let's say, like 7, 8 years old, went to school, and he like told all of the people that were in his class, and they told his teachers and everybody, that's like, if you come close to me, I will kill you. So he threatened to kill everybody who was around him. And he wasn't joking, like he was like, that was actually in his head what he was going to do. And I mean, he had a really bad fight or flight response. And he was one of those guys that's like, when he thought he did something wrong, he started hitting himself in the head. And like, anyway, how this ended up developing is throughout most of his life, he cut himself. He would always talk to me about these things. And I mean, I'm not shy about things, things don't scare me like that. Like if somebody says, oh yeah, I cut, or I used to cut, I'm just like, that's interesting, and they're like, what do you mean that's interesting? It's like, yeah, like, so you do something that most people think is bad, I mean, this is a good example, of how I think. I told him one day, I go, man, I could never be a psychologist or a therapist. And he was like, why? He goes, you're pretty good at listening. And I go, yeah, but the thing is I think, because he told me one day, he told me that he used to cut, and I told him, that's good, man. And he's like, well, like, wait, why? And I go, well, you used to. And he didn't even really understand that the figure of speech that he was using was like something that I was like, I was proud of him, I was proud that he didn't do that anymore, And what we discussed one day was, he said, what would you say to somebody, or I just proposed this idea. I go, Nate, I go, if somebody came to me and were telling me that they were cutting themselves, and then the next week they told me like week 1 I cut myself 10 times, and week 2 I cut myself 5 times. I go, I'd tell them that they did a good job. And he was like, what do you mean? They still cut themselves? And I go, yeah, but they didn't, it was an improvement, like they didn't cut themselves as much as they did the previous week. Isn't that something that should be celebrated? Like, small victories, guys. These are things that, I was getting at. Oh, I'm with Milk. I'm really glad that you mentioned the New Year's resolution thing, because I'm exactly on your wavelength. I don't really think about New Year's resolutions in the sense of like, I'm going to do this right now, or I need to do this year. It's like, I do actually kind of have, oddly, like a New Year's resolution, but it's just been something that I've been planning on doing for a while. The deadline is by the end of this year. So I guess you could consider it a New Year's resolution per se. I don't know. I usually don't, because it's not something that I'm like, I have to do this in this year. It is something that I want to get done, though, and that is to dunk a basketball. It's going to be weird to hear that. Most people, you guys don't know me. I actually was considering all day today. I'm going to ask you guys, do you guys think that that would be a good video? Progress video towards me dunking a basketball. Eh? Think about it. Think about it and let me know. I'm curious. I haven't actually mentioned a single thing about this game yet today. I've been telling you guys stories. Hopefully you guys enjoy the stories. That way, people keep coming back. I've seemed to have found my voice a little bit. Over the last couple of days, I was struggling to get back into the role of things. But clearly I got my storytelling, my thing back here. So I didn't end up doing what I wanted to do. I was getting monkey towns. That's what I was been doing the last couple nights, eh? Spending all my money from like level 50 to level 60 on a monkey town, and then I'm usually ready to usually the monkey town will make you enough money back that it makes it worth it. So yeah. Anyway, I've been talking so much, I just casually strolled through that. So anyways, I'm going to have to get another I'm going to have to get a balloon chipper, another balloon chipper already. Okay. I was on a roll there with my stories. Can't remember where I was going with that. I was talking, I'm with Milk. Oh, about New Year's resolutions. So, what I wanted to say to you guys about New Year's resolutions is I'm with Milk actually made a comment about how he doesn't set New Year's resolutions. He just sort of does what he doesn't need to have a big goal like that. A big, I guess like a monumental break. Like the whole world has kind of decided that like New Year's, set a resolution and, set a goal and set a plan. And, it's funny because everybody tries to set plans to like work out and be healthy and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, the best time to start is right now, and the next best time to start is right now. And the next best time to start is whenever you're ready, So that is something that I do want to say to everybody is like, whenever the time, you don't need to wait for the whole world to be ready for you to do something. You can just go and do it. And actually, it's better if you do. I still, maybe this is embarrassing, but I live in my parents' house. I have a room in my parents' house. And, they were asking, my mom just, I've been into investing most of my life. So my mom was talking about rent one day and I was just like, yeah, I'll pay rent if you need me to pay rent. And she ended up saying to me, she goes, well, just take your rent money, the money that you were going to give us for rent, and just invest that for yourself. And I was like, okay, if that's what you want me to do, I'll do that. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up investing all the money myself and, doing pretty well with that. Where was I going with this friggin' story? New Year's resolutions. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with this. I am worried about losing here, though. Shoot. No, I'm definitely going to lose here. Okay. 77. Hopefully we got some good stories in there today. Enjoy yourselves, guys. Come back next time. Bye.